Welcome back to the Prospered Soul podcast. I am your host, Lana McMurray, Mindset and Embodiment Coach. Question: are you afraid of your truth? How often do you feel a disappointment or a sense of shame or a sense of regret or sadness? These are the cost of not being true to yourself. And they will answer that question for you, whether or not you're afraid of your truth. Let's dig into this a little deeper. Connecting to your truth, what the heck does that even really mean? It sounds like something that would be really woo-woo or new agey. Well, I can personally tell you that having been born into a Christian household and raised in the faith all of my life, the idea of me having my very own truth was hard for me to accept for years. Because just the thought of me being true to myself immediately gave me feelings of stay away from that thinking. That's a wrong way to feel. Like I was engaging in some taboo activity that would actually separate me from God. For what the heck do I know about the truth? There's nothing good in me aside from Christ. And how dare I just trust myself? I'm supposed to rely on God. Did you or have you ever felt that way? I was very wrong. I was not being true to myself, and it had consequences. And I had to learn through suffering the consequences that there wasn't anything insincere or sinful about taking the lead in my life. Realities such as an emotionally abusive marriage, because toxic partners are attracted to weakness. They can sense it, and it allows them, especially good girls and good boys that really care about other people and that are dutiful. They know that they can lie and make a lie look clean and true, and they can come up underneath that curtain, and portray themselves of something long enough to where you get ensnared and trauma bonded. Or, so realities such as an emotionally abusive relationship or marriage, manipulation and control from other people and others in relationships. Again, it could be parents, it could be siblings, it could be teachers, it could be professors, it could be bosses, it could be anyone that manipulates and controls you in a relationship. Lack and shortage of money and resources, and consistently not ever arriving at a desired end goal. These were things I suffered through for years. Finally got a hold of myself, listened to myself, trusted myself, and was able to get myself out of each one of these situations. But, not owning my power caused a lot of problems in my life. The biggest one, it pained me the most, was my children struggling to thrive. It affected all the way down to my kids. And that was a deep sorrow, and it pained me, and it really did spur me to take action and take risk and to ensure that I had to figure something out. I risked, as I said before, I had a fear, an irrational fear of sending them into a doom, or myself to maybe even an eternal hell for not being a good enough Christian. And let's not say this was ridiculous, because this is what was being preached back in the day. You have to understand, I'm in my 50s. my middle 50s reaching towards 60, and what was taught in church is different than what is taught now. And that mess was believed back then. There was a lot of weight put on people to strictly follow because of, it's like the movie The Village, where this family, this civilization existed within this village, and only like one person in the entire village knew that there was another world beyond the fence. But no one ever ventured out past a certain area because there was this wolf that kept coming at unpredictable times in the night and would take, and harm people. So people would take turns going up to the watchtower to look out for this wolf that would come into their village. And lo and behold, one person actually did go all the way out to the end of the fence, climb the fence, and guess what they saw? Regular cars, streets, paved streets, houses, a whole world out there that was not horse and buggy-ish like it was there in that village, that old-timey village. So at different times in our lives, there are belief systems, cultural belief systems that exist. And what I'm just saying is that I came up in a time where, even girls were not supposed to wear pants, not cut their hair, not wear makeup. It was, thankfully my mom didn't take me to that church. I was raised a Baptist, and not the really strict Baptist, but there was the real strict holiness going around in my town, and it was a lot of talk about the world ending, and people getting ready for the rapture. So understandably, I do get where some of these beliefs, and I tend to be a bit of an overachiever, so if I want to do something, I kind of want to do it right. And I love God. I love Spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever you call them. I have always had a love affair with God. So it didn't bother me to want to be pleasing, especially if it meant my children were going to benefit. Man, if it meant they were going to get something good and have a good life, I was going to figure that mess out. So fortunately, I'm a fighter, and I crave to live an extraordinary life. I also before I got into that belief system of being saved and following this strict way of being, I had a freedom time where I flowed in relationship with a spirit higher than me, which I call God. Other people might not, but I do. So I gathered my courage, and I chose to let myself see all the things that were happening to me. Because you really can't change anything you're not aware of. I didn't even know that yet. I just decided that I had so much pain inside, but I had a lot of courage inside, that I was going to choose to just let myself take a look at what was happening to me. And journaling helped me with that, because I started writing. And 2 episodes ago, I talked about the importance of journaling. I started writing at first with no intention whatsoever, just to get off my chest something I needed to get off my chest. And it was a way for me to, because when we would go into counseling sessions, I wasn't allowed to get angry. I was always told, and my ex-husband, definitely, if I got angry, that was the conversation's over. I'm not talking to you. You're not reasonable. I was not allowed to show any emotion. And when we would go into counseling, of course, he would get up and walk away if everything wasn't going his way. So they always played to the man. They played to the man in Christian counseling. If he wasn't going to be involved, then we needed to make sure we kept him involved, because I can deal with it. I'm strong, but we need to just do whatever we need to do to keep him involved in the counseling. So he even controlled that. So in my journal, I could cuss like a sailor in my journal, and I could say exactly what happened, exactly what I thought, exactly where I wanted him to go, and it was just glorious. Man, I love my journal. And then I started writing out the whole conversations, and then I started to take a look, and I was like, wait a second, he really did say that, and I didn't do anything before to cause that type of anger, or after to cause that type of reaction. And when I asked for to be respected or to be treated nicely, I got this, and I started to distance myself from what was going on between us, and I started to see what was happening to me. Once I started getting that under wraps, writing in my journal, when something would happen, write in my journal, because remember, you get that amnesia when you're going through some type of manipulation or control or emotional or mental abuse. After the incident, it's like you get amnesia and you can't remember what happened. It's so weird. It's all part of the trauma bonding. So I decided next was to take certain actions, because I am a reader. So I had already knew about this, because before I met him, I got into the New Age science of the mind, and I had gone to a bunch of conventions and conferences and youth things, and I had read a lot of books like The Power of Thinking Big and all of these other kind of, like, they call New Agey books back then. Now they just call them self-help. I knew what to do. I just didn't do it because I didn't think I had the right to choose. I didn't think that I had the right to really take the lead and follow the way I felt like I wanted to go. Instead, I was being told that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says for you as a wife are supposed to be the thermostat in your house, and you're supposed to keep, the peace, and you're supposed to walk in love, and you're supposed to walk in faith, and don't get out that faith walk, and don't you get out that love walk, and don't be angry. It's not him, it is Satan. Satan is the one doing all these things. And so you're not even blaming the person, I just couldn't. When I started writing in my journal, and I started seeing what was happening to me, I didn't see no Satan. Okay, I saw someone who enjoyed it. I saw someone who not only liked the fact that he got left alone and got to do what he wanted, and then he got loved on top of that, but that it was starting to be addicting, and it was just getting worse. So I decided to take certain actions, and even though they flew right in the face of all the core teachings that I had come to fearfully respect, I found my sweet, sweet freedom, and I began to grow again. When I turned my attention away from anyone else outside of me, and I looked to doing what I wanted to do, I found a peace. And it was a peace that passed all understanding. And it was kind of contradictory to everything that I was told. Because I was told I would find peace if I loved. But I wasn't loving myself. I was allowing someone to mistreat me. And knowing, not being stupid, because I'm far from stupid, so knowing that this is not normal, it can't be normal, this does not feel good, I can never get this to feel good, I don't care how much I pray or fast, I cannot get this to feel good. And hearing, the way I felt inside was I just wanted to run away. I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to just leave. That's all I felt all the time, is I just don't want to be here. And when I started to read books about verbal abuse and emotional abuse, and about relationships and respect, and then the boundaries. McLeod and Thompson, I believe their names. First, that's Boundary book was my first kind of like Christian book that got me out of the traditional Dr. Dobson books. And then I started finding on the bookshelves other things, and I started to see that I am not beholden to no other human being on this earth but myself and my children. I need to be true to myself. And I became more confident, and my courage grew. And then I began to achieve more things, and I became more productive and effective. And I decided that I was going to leave my marriage. And all during this time, before I made the decision, I was ignoring my gut instincts. And again, I just wanted to flee. I just wanted to run away. And all during that time I stayed, I had failure and I had lack. Failure and lack. But when I decided to trust myself, I got a really, really good job. And I got a job with benefits, making more money, and I took over the benefits for my entire household. I also got offered a really well-running car, and that's a story within itself. Just a little bit about that. I never had my own car after we moved to Florida. We had one car, and we shared the car, and he always took a job that never had permanent, consistent hours. So I could not work because I didn't know I couldn't give anybody my schedule. His schedule would always change. So I couldn't give anybody else my schedule or to work somewhere else. I had 3 kids going on 4. I needed to put them in daycare. I mean, how was I going to get to work? How was I going to get them to daycare? And he would not cooperate with me to do this. Yet he would make enough money to take care of us. And I was still told, even with this practical, very real, tangible, you can see it, you can understand what I'm saying, world experiences, everyone, and I'm telling you, everyone still told me, except for one counselor who was secular, but all the other people, that no matter if they were a prayer warrior, a pastor, an aunt and uncle who were in church, our Christian therapists would tell me to honor my husband because I will be blessed. I know it doesn't look right now, but if right now you just need to pray and have God soften his heart, and things will work out. While we went without, okay? And I'm supposed to be strong and all of these things. So anyway, a friend of mine used to come and pick me up in the summertime, and she liked to shop at yard sales and stuff. She just loved yard sales. So all summer long, and it was hot in my house because my house in this scorching Florida heat had no air conditioning, and my ex had no intention of adding air conditioning to it. Not on the budget, not in the discussion. I need to stop being unthankful and ungrateful. Okay, is what I was told. And that was another thing we went to counseling about. Another thing I was supposed to just deal with. Okay, I'm talking about I had real issues. I never, ever, ever was hit. I wasn't ever hit, not once in my life. But the neglect and the cruelty and the meanness, and God, if I didn't fear God, I would have left so quick. But because for a long time I thought that I was supposed to turn the other cheek and be that Proverbs 31, the Ephesians, and the Psalms, the Proverbs 31, and the Ephesians 3, and all of these things we were taught that would work if love never fails, and they didn't understand at all. There was no vocabulary for verbal abuse. The only abuse that was known was physical, rape, or hitting, like being with bruises. Those two things you could get out the marriage. Of course, you didn't have, of course, no question. But arguing over air conditioning, not having it in the house. I was told I got married. It's a contract. You don't get out of a marriage because he doesn't want to put air conditioning in the house. It was horrible. And, so I enrolled my children in the summer program at a community park for the summer to spare them from the heat. And then my friend graciously would want to go checking out the yard sales and stuff, and I had my little baby Brianna, and she would be in her little car seat, and we would be in nice air conditioning in the car. So we were saved during hot times of the day all summer long. Well, in my heart, I had a wish, and I was like, I wish, man, this car was mine, because it is so faithful. I mean, we go ripping and rowing all over town. And the cars that my ex-husband has, they're always broken. He's always having to fix them. But this car always runs, And so, so keep that in mind. I liked her car, and I had a desire to have a car like that. And I even wish that I might be able to have her car. Well, you know what happened? When I went to Pennsylvania to go to a graduation, before going to the graduation, I had saw an ad in a paper about a job. And it was a job with they're now Aon, but they were called, what were they called before? Were they Aon? No, they weren't Aon. They were Hewitt Associates. And it just called to me. And I said to myself, I had already started my paperwork for divorce. I had decided I was getting a divorce. I went to the courthouse. I picked up my own paperwork, and I would turn it in every week, and they would help me. They would tell me what I need to do next. I fill that out, bring that in, turn that in. And it was based on what I had money to. Because you have to, when you file documents, you got to pay for it. You got to pay for, plus I had to pay for the bus to get down there. So I was determined. So as every week as I would get money, I would take new sheets of papers, file them jokers. And I was going to the domestic abuse, and I hated to say that because I'm not a person that's a victim, but I learned that the domestic abuse counseling place I was going to was not at all what I thought. There were business owners in my private, secure sessions. I'm talking about owning galleries, restaurants. I mean, this is big money people that were going through things you would never know that they're going through in their homes. You never know who's hurting. You never know who's going through this. That's why I talk about it more often, because I think it relieves the pain from other people. So that summer, I saw the ad in the paper. I decided I was going to apply for the job. I didn't know how I was going to get there because I live on one side of town, and this job was over where the college that I ended up graduating with in 2018, that's not even close to me, the job was behind that. But I just knew inside of me, I needed to go to that job. I needed to apply for that job. I needed to just try. But I almost didn't because it said critical thinking required. And for the past 11 years, I had let this man, well, I didn't really let him. It's this, when somebody says something, this is another dangerous thing. being in the environment of mental cruelty and emotional neglect and just toxic, verbal abusive behavior. I didn't even know about narcissism back then, but now we know about narcissism. Your body has different chemicals like cortisol and, adrenaline and all of these things that when you have something happen to you and then you get shocked and stunned, it affects your brain. And I talked about amnesia, how you don't remember afterwards. And then they're nice to you, and then they do it again, and then you're told by other people, don't look at that, look here, look at this scripture here, that's the one that's going to save you. All of that builds within you a trauma bonding conditioning, and it wrecks your body. And I would often be told by him, you don't think. And I realized when I started to get like myself back, and I started getting kind of feisty, that he was able to say that because I wasn't thinking. And he knew I wasn't thinking because he knew he shouldn't have gotten away with all that stuff that he had. So he's like, she don't think, she ain't gonna do nothing. When it said critical thinking required, I had come to a place in myself because my mind started slipping, and all of this trauma bonding, being a parent and being a young mother and having desires and wishes and being frustrated and only having access to say what I wanted to say in my journals till I finally started going to Harbor House and having the counseling sessions, that I didn't believe that I could put two thoughts together. I stopped believing in myself that I could think critically. But I still said within myself, I'll let them tell me I can't. I'll let them tell me no. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I don't know how I'm going to get there. So when it came time to go for this job interview, I got told while I was on vacation by my very good friend who had this car that I just appreciated so much and desired to have something like it. Hey, I'm gonna sell my car, and my brother wants to buy it. He's been asking me for my car for the longest time, and when I first thought about selling my car, you immediately came to mind. And I'm not going to sell it to my brother. Do you want to buy my car? I had started working at, I had figured out how to go to work. And I figured out how to do it was to catch the bus and take it to my good friend who passed away, worked in the daycare center for Bally's Fitness. And she offered me a job that I could bring my baby, my daughter to. So that was the only job that I had. So, and that happened like towards the end. And I'm kind of like skipping around here. I'm telling a story. I had spent a bunch of the summer with my friend that had the car, with her preparing for homeschooling and picking and finding things in the store and yard sales and so forth. But then I also I got a job towards start of school again, and I had that money, so I would just catch the bus and there and back, rain, no matter what, showed up for work. And I had a credit card. I had gotten my own credit card. And you know what I did? And I told her, you know what? She sold it. She had a good price that she asked me, would I be able to afford that? And I told her, you know what? I can get a cash advanced on my credit card and I can pay for half of it and then I can make these other payments. And she agreed. And I had a car. I had a car to get to that job. First, I borrowed her car because remember, I didn't even have a car. So first I borrowed her car. And at that point, when I went for the job interview, we didn't have the conversation about giving me the car yet. I borrowed her car to go to the interview. As I drove up to this place, I felt like, oh man, if I ever felt the Holy Spirit come down on me. And it was just this yes. And I just wanted that job. I mean, the building was gorgeous. The people were very good. And they even were telling us, I know that you guys have other interviews planned and there's other places you're looking at work, but really, please consider working for us. And they were actually asking us to please choose them over other people instead of it being the other way around of, well, we'll let you know if we want you, we'll call you. They were like begging us to work for them. And I had a little bit of a low self-esteem from dealing with this man for all these years. And I didn't think I could think. Well, I knew I could think, but I had forgotten. So I was so impressed. And they had free restaurant there that fed you lunch. You didn't have to pay for it. It was so nice. And that, health benefits, that you do all the training. So I went to the interview. Then then later on, while, I was still waiting to hear back, I went to Pennsylvania to go to a graduation. And that's when I got the call for the car, to buy her car at exactly what I had the money to buy it for. That's stepping out on faith. There is no reason for it. Took me, I had never ever gone that far on the side of Florida before, Orlando, Florida. All the way on the other side of Orlando, Florida is where the company was. I had no car. I had no idea how I was going to get to work every day. All I knew was I was called to that ad in that paper. It was actual newspaper. And even though I also feared that I wouldn't be able to do the job, I had to do this. I had let myself down for so many things. I had let myself down by not applying myself in high school, barely graduating with a 1.8 GPA, knowing that what my mom is turning over in the grave, being in the education system, Other things that I had not stood up for myself and defended myself for. I was beginning to get I had developed my confidence by going to Harbor House and being in these secret meetings, because we couldn't let us people, well, my husband knew I was going because I wasn't afraid of him, but the women who had to get rescued and so forth and that were in dangerous situations, they couldn't let their spouses know where they were or their boyfriends or no one, so everybody could be safe. So we're in the secret meetings, such good counseling. I'm telling you what, if you have thinking that people that are abused live in trailer homes and they don't have any self-esteem and they don't stand up for themselves and they're codependent, that's malarkey. These women, but it was only women, men had their own thing, were on top of their game, okay? They all just had sensitive hearts, cared for other people, and were manipulated. Many of them from religious backgrounds where they're told, don't look at the situation. Things pile up over time. This situation that you end up in, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long time. I was 11 years married. So it's over a long time. And I was really young. I got married at 20. So, these things happen. And you forgive yourself. You have compassion for yourself. You learn your lessons. Most importantly, listen to yourself. Because the truth is always being spoken inside. There's nobody, there is no preacher, no priest, no imam, no nothing that can tell you nothing more than you can tell yourself. You know you. When you come to this earth, you come alone. When you leave alone. You won't be with other people when you die. You're going to be by yourself. And you have every right to decide. You have every right to make your own rules, decide how you want to live your life, whether you want to put on some freaking pants or not, whether you want to put makeup on your face, whether you want to cut your hair, whether you want to be gay, whether you want to be or trans. You have the right. No one has the right to tell you nothing, okay? The devil is not as big as they say that he is. A lot of that stuff has to do with disciplined minds, knowing the truth, understanding God for yourself. There never was any devil in my situation. When I dropped that pretense and instead I made him accountable and myself accountable, boy, things quickly got better for me. That's when I've had the money. Suddenly, I got the opportunity to put my kids in the summer school. Before, they was in this hot house. When I started thinking and trusting myself, the supplication for them to be in a summer program appeared. My friend needing to go all over town, half of the summer, spared me from heat, because we went straight first thing after I dropped them babies off until I picked them up. About that time I got home, it was cooler in the day, and I had my little baby girl in the car seat, and we went and had a good time, and then I got the job. My friend got hired, and then she hired me, and then I started going regularly to the counseling. I was already going to the counseling thing, but I really started doing the private and the group, and then my kids had the private sessions. And I just, the money I made, I had my own bus money, and then the group sessions, I just made sure that night I got to have the car. And then I was filing my papers. I had to pay money to file my papers for divorce. I was just strategically planning all of this stuff, walking it out one step at a time. And it came from trusting myself. I was trusting myself. I was hearing and doing. And it absolutely honored God for me to do that. My heart was sincere before, but I was ignoring myself, and that brought pain and that brought loss. But when I really started to listen to myself, that was pleasing. That was pleasing to Spirit, because He's like, I created you. I've been talking to you all this time. Own yourself. So just know that if you want to be courageous and you want to be confident, you want to be productive, you want to be effective, you want to feel inspired, you want to achieve things, you're going to have to own yourself. You get to make your own rules. If you need any help with that is what I excel in. I am a .com good coach. I can help you clear fog. I can help you become courageous and more empowered and stronger, and see the truth of what is happening to you and make a decision on that. I also have my Power of Clarity program, which is based divinely on this. And it has sessions already recorded, and we're going to be doing live sessions incorporating all of the new spiritual information that we now know about. So, like making yourself, dropping the pattern of being unavailable or of attracting unavailable partners, actually, getting into the energy of things and dissolving patterns. Oh, it's just so much fun. So anyway, this went interesting. I didn't even intend to talk about all of this, but it did. Okay, well, thank you for joining me as I step out, open my mouth, and talk and share the message that's coming through me. And let's see what comes for tomorrow. Have a great day, morning, wherever time I'm finding you. Bye.